guys, it's me, Monica, your host of Live for the Journey. And in this podcast episode, we're going to be talking about what it's like to work at the NewsCru. And we're going to be meeting everyone who is a paid staff member at the NewsCru. We've all been here for at least a year, all of us except Julia. She's a new hire this semester. And we're just going to be going through how we found out about the bells and what it takes to be a NewsCru member. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself because I don't really go over it as I'm interviewing people, but my name is Monica. I am a film major and a business entrepreneur minor. So when I heard about the bells, Dumas actually did a presentation in one of my classes and was like, we're considering doing a podcast. And I was here for a year and I wrote articles, I took pictures, I learned behind the scenes, and I took a break because there was nothing really for me here personally as a film major, I felt, but I did gain a lot of experience with communication and talking to people. So I took one semester off and then I came back when our new advisor, Paul Carr, got hired, and I pitched an idea about a podcast, and here we are. So working for the NewsCru is definitely, you're gonna hit the ground running. It's crazy, but it's also really fun. But we love to bring everyone in and help them out. But it is something that can be overwhelming, especially if you're a freshman and if you've never been in this type of workplace environment, which I'm sure a lot of people haven't, coming straight out of high school, but you never know. So yeah, guys, I hope you guys enjoy this episode and get to meet the crew more in depth. And we also are going to have social media posts of little cute get to know them, fun facts, things like that. So be on the lookout for that. So bye, guys. We are back. This is Live for the Journey, and we are here with Bradley and Xhaxany, and we are the NewsCru. We're basically half of the NewsCru right now, and we're gonna be talking about what it's like to work for the NewsCru and the bells and all of that.
My name is Xhaxany, but I also go by Shay. I'm the editor-in-chief for the Bells NewsCru, and this is my first semester as the editor-in-chief. I was the assistant editor last semester, so that's a little bit about myself and my role here.
Bradley?
I'm Bradley. This is my third year being the sports editor here. I used to play soccer at the school. I don't anymore, so I've been able to take a much more prominent role here at NewsCru.
Okay. What was the reason why you guys signed up to be a part of the NewsCru in the first place?
I'll go first. Well, when we first came here, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I thought I really wanted to be a sports writer, journalist, broadcaster, anything to do with sports. That's all I knew I wanted to do. And I figured this was a really good opportunity to get hands-on experience, very different experience that would be hard to get anywhere else. And that was my reason for joining. But now we actually have qualified for the internship credits for the mass communications program, so that's really helpful. And obviously we get paid.
Yeah. I came into it just looking for a work study position because I needed one, and I was on a deadline, and I was really looking for something just laid back and easy. Didn't really know much about it coming in, but I kind of really found a joy in being able to write and take photos. But I noticed there were some things that were like, I wonder what I could do here. What if I branched out over there? And that's kind of what drew me in more to it and wanting to stay and continue to pursue better things for it.
What has been the thing you guys learned the most over your years at the NewsCru?
People like to talk about themselves.
Interviewing is
Yeah.
handling some of that anxiety. It really works on your people skills, being comfortable, stepping out of your depth, working with tight deadlines, taking not criticism, but just being very open to other opinions. Just don't get offended when people disagree with something and just back it up, and if it sticks, it sticks.
Yeah, the Bells, I think, is one of the only work studies on campus that really will get you in a position to understand the world a little bit more, because it does put you in uncomfortable spots at times. It forces you out of your comfort zone to interview people for hot button questions, just hot button topics in general. You do have to face some like conflicts within the office as well. I definitely think it does prepare you for a job at some point in your life, because you do face these everyday work challenges. But that's some of the biggest takeaways I've taken from it.
And being you're not a journalism major, right?
I'm not.
So being that, how have you been able to incorporate maybe things you've learned from your major into working for the Bells?
I've incorporated a few management skills that I've learned from Dr. Langford's classes into the Bells. So some of his approaches when it comes to empathy, or just like even HR, how you would approach various situations when you have like a writer or just come up to you and they don't agree with you and they're not happy with you. How do you approach that and not be personal with it? Or how do you check in on somebody who's not doing great mentally and they don't want to talk to you, they're not coming in, there's obviously an issue. How do you approach that with tact? Or when you're talking to an admin about, let's say, their financial statements, how do you go about interviewing them and slowly build up to that? I definitely think the School of Business has taught me quite a bit about how to approach sensitive situations.
Regarding the Bells and in life,
yes.
Kind of. And how has the Bells helped you career-wise?
Well, it's kind of shaped what I want to do, and it's definitely reaffirmed my belief that I want to do something in sports. I love being around it. It makes it feel like I'm not working most of the time. But it's given you some intangibles, like I said, teaches you how to communicate. Dr. Carr was telling us, always tells us that being a good communicator will be good wherever you go. Kind of like I said, taking criticism from your boss, from anybody, teaching you how to be a team player, give criticism, and it has taught me that there are times when people need help, and there are times when you need help. You need to let people know. So that kind of goes back to the whole communicating thing, just how much easier that makes it, and so that'll translate wherever I go.
Communication is literally, I think that's all we've been hearing about, even in class, business, everything. It all leads back to communication. What do you guys think is the hardest lesson you had to learn from the Bells?
Well, I can speak from experience. I had kind of like a rocky start. Well, I had a good start, and then I got burnt out on it. Yeah. And I mean, every writer goes through something like that. Yeah. Where, I mean, you're doing a lot. I mean, we were understaffed, a whole lot of issues going on. But realizing that, you can't just, kind of fold over. Yeah. So I would say that was the hardest thing, was even when it's really rough, and that kind of goes back to the communicating, is let people know when you need to be picked up, and by them picking you up and helping you out, that gives you more energy because you feel better about yourself. Mm-hmm. And so going into my third year, I feel a lot better than I have recently.
Johnny?
I would say probably always ask your superiors before you do anything, especially something that's going to have a pretty big cause and effect. Yeah. The biggest one I could think of is a substance abuse story that we were thinking of doing.
Really?
And before running it by anybody, I went ahead and made those phone calls to different departments in the city just to get numbers and quotes. And after I had done that, I went to our boss, Professor Carr, and he said, I don't think that would fly great, just because it's not on campus and it doesn't really relate to the university. Okay. What we could do is switch the perspective. How does substance abuse change, or how does substance abuse affect our students? Does anyone here struggle with it? What's going on? But yeah, always ask before you do something.
Yeah. it's always hard when you have everything prepared and then you're like, nope, can't do it. And it's like, wait.
That was another hard thing to adjust is sometimes, and I was talking to one of our new employees the other day, is sometimes you have everything planned out and it falls through and you just got to adjust on the fly to meet your deadline. But it teaches you to be prepared and always have a backup plan, contingencies.
Do you guys think that the bells would be beneficial for any student on campus, freshman all the way through senior?
Yes, I think it would.
Definitely. I think for freshmen, coming into school is a lot. But I think we were talking earlier is like, we're bringing in more people, and the more you get, it's a good way to get integrated into an actual workplace where you're held accountable. And I think it's nice to see yourself progress in something, especially if it's not even really connected to what you do. I think it's a good challenge, and I think it connects to more people than they would think.
Yeah.
I mean, we've had people from science departments, PR, everywhere come to join in recently, so I think no matter who joins, they get something out of it.
What was your guys' biggest fear, whether it be this year or just throughout the years? What is something that makes you still kind of anxious while doing the NewsCru?
Interviews at first, I would say that first one was really nerve-wracking, but then 5 minutes into it I was fine, and I've just approached all of them the same way after that. Just talk to them like they're people and they'll be nice to you. And I would say when you've never put your you've never published something, that feeling of oh man, are people gonna like it? Or you're handing it to you're bouncing it back and forth, and it's just your work is always out there, for people to scrutinize. So, I mean, that's pretty hard to get used to, but eventually you're just confident in what you put out, so it doesn't really bother me anymore.
I'd go with something similar, especially when you've done a story that's not too lighthearted. So the recent wrestling story I did.
Yeah.
I did send it to all the wrestlers because they asked for it, but I had to send it to the wrestler who lost and who didn't do so great that night.
Yeah.
And that was a pretty big loss for him. And it's just having to send it knowing they're gonna read it.
Yeah.
And it feels in a way you are talking bad about them, but it's an anxious feeling. Ooh, what are they gonna think about it? Is it gonna be controversial?
Yeah.
It takes a minute to get over, but that's probably what it is for me, is having the people who I talk to read what I wrote.
Do you guys think that CAR is really good at managing and helping you guys out in certain scenarios? Say you're just burnt out, like you've said, or communication and things like that.
I love CAR. I would die for CAR.
I would agree with that.
Yeah.
He does a really good job.
Do you guys have any advice for anybody contemplating, freshman through senior, to work for the Bells, even just volunteer?
Considering the state of the staff right now, I think it would be, if you're interested, we take any and all volunteer work. I would recommend doing it because volunteer, there's no strings attached. You can help as much as you like, attend as much as you like, and kind of get your feet wet and decide if you want to stick with it or not. And then, maybe if you're a freshman, sophomore, and seniors and juniors leave, or people move on, then it's okay, is it something that I want to do full time? I think right now is a great chance to join. There's absolutely no stress, no burden, no workload, and you just kind of get to figure out what it's all about. And I think you'll find that it benefits you and is fun.
Johnny?
Advice? If you're looking to be challenged and constantly be busy, I would say join. If you're looking for something that puts you out of your comfort zone, just to network, and I don't know, a good way to describe it would be to expect the unexpected at all times. I'd say it's a pretty good job for you, because you really never know what's going to happen. Things could always change at the drop of a pen for anything. So I would say if that sounds like a good environment for you, then by all means, have at it.
What's, like, I asked you guys what was the hardest lesson? What was, like, something fulfilling you've had come from the Bells working there?
Well, the last semester, actually my favorite story I've written, I like all my sports stories, but my favorite one I've written was this one we called Taking Care of the Crew. We put it on our last print edition, and it felt good, being able to talk to people and that were struggling with mental health and getting a gauge on that, and I felt like that actually contributed to something. Yeah. And I was able to talk to our counseling services and try to help promote them and get their message across to students who probably, a lot of students don't know that we have student counseling services, and if they do, they don't know where it's located. And I felt like trying to raise awareness and put that message out there was really fulfilling, and that was one of the situations where it didn't feel like work.
Yeah. That's a good one.
For me, I would say the most impactful piece that I've done was the research story that I did for the School of Business. There's two professors, Dr. King and Dr. Lockett, who were working on the correlation between accounting and supply chain. So during that, I wrote an article about it, and they presented that to a bunch of different board panels across the United States. But we had a former student whose dad works at the Fed. I believe it's his dad. Don't quote me on that. But it was sent up to the Fed, and the Fed in Dallas, who's sent it to Bush's former economic advisor, who then got in touch with the professors. So they came and they thanked me for that, and they sent the story to his advisor, which I thought was really interesting. Yeah. And that was probably my most impactful piece, but also just learning how to write without even having to think about it on any topic, like essays, really anything, just probably the most impactful thing for me.
What are you guys hopeful for the NewsCru in the coming year?
Good website.
Just, overall expansion, new website, podcast, social media.
To move up a division at the TIPA Awards.
Okay. That's a goal you want to achieve?
I would love to achieve that, because we're currently Division 4, which puts us with some other really, really small schools, and we don't have a lot of, like, leeway to win against, like, Division 1 schools. But I would love to be able to go into, like, a Division 3 category and actually win and submit more.
Okay. Bradley, anything?
Kind of what I said, just more diversity in what we put out. Podcasts. That's pretty much it. I like the avenues we're exploring. Bring in more people, more volunteers, more opinions. Probably have a little bit more reach. I mean, I've done a lot of networking in my 3 years, so the more that I can network and get in touch with other areas of the school and help us be exposed to more faculty and students, that would be great.
Okay, guys. Hello, we are back with Julia and Rachel, and we're going to be talking about their experience at the NewsCru. So you guys want to introduce yourselves?
Yeah, I'm Rachel. I'm a sophomore, and I'm an English major.
I'm Julia. I'm a senior, and I'm a PR major.
And what made you guys, anyone can go first, what caught your attention with the NewsCru? What made you join?
It seemed like a really good option to get involved on campus, because I'd like to get involved more, and also I'm using it as one of my internships for public relations.
Okay. Rachel?
This is my second year, and last year I was a journalism major. I changed my major recently, so it went well with my major, and
So why are you still here? Like, what made you come back?
I want to be a writer.
Okay.
So any writing experience is good writing experience.
Mm-hmm.
Also because like I have friends here and I like the team. So.
All right. And Julia, you've just, what is this, your second, third week with us? Mm-hmm. So you have a little bit, not as much experience as per se Rachel. So I'm going to ask you, Rachel, first, how was the last year as a whole?
It was fun, but it was hard.
Yeah.
We had such a small staff that it was difficult to like, keep up and get everything done, especially because we were trying to like do more online posting, and it was Professor Carr's first year, and so he was kind of trying to figure out the vibe, and I was trying to figure out the vibe, and so it was just like a little bit stressful, but it was fun, and I made a lot of friends. So.
Yeah. What was the thing that was the hardest for you to figure out last semester?
I have a hard time with interviewing people.
Okay.
So.
Ironically, she interviews people man on the street with style, but.
Yes. Well, that's fun. What's not fun is like a 20-minute conversation with someone asking them questions about stuff. That's just hard for me. But I was kind of forced into those situations, so learning how to deal with that and stuff like that.
And Julia, how did you feel coming into the NewsCru? How are you currently feeling? What have you experienced?
It's busy. It's going to be fun, though. I think finding stories and learning more about on-campus, community, Belton area is going to be super fun. But yeah. What
was like what do you think you can add to the NewsCru this semester?
I'd like to add the social media aspect, especially. I think that's just such a big thing nowadays. And it's a way to get y'all's name out there, too, as well.
Yeah. Did y'all, well, I know, Rachel, you heard about us through email before you even got here, but how did you hear about us?
I heard through one of the professors in PR.
Okay. That's, yay. That's actually how I heard about the bells, but it was Dumas. He made a presentation and said there would be a podcast, but that didn't happen until a year and a half later. But what is something that you guys are looking forward to this semester? Growing in, learning, seeing, being a part of?
I think being a part of NewsCru, I'm excited to learn like editing and everything, because I'm not versed in like film or like editing and anything like that, and like videography, stuff like that. So I'm excited to like be more aware and learn more about it.
Okay. Rachel?
I'm excited. I'm doing these like small business reviews this year, so I'm kind of excited to work on that. I don't know how often they'll be because I'm so busy, but I think it'll be fun to like go to a little coffee shop and like interview the owner and stuff like that.
What would you say to someone that is considering working or maybe even volunteering at the NewsCru? What advice would you give them?
I'd say like come into it with an open mind. There's plenty of opportunities for everyone with every kind of interest, but you may end up doing something that you're not the biggest fan of, but it's all for like the good of the team, and at the end of the day, you're going to end up doing the stuff that you enjoy. Like I had to, last year I had to write some stories I didn't really love writing, but at the end of the year I got to write some stuff that I really enjoyed writing. So it's, it's all an experience, and the more experienced you are, the more you're able to do the things that you like.
Yeah. Julia, since you're new, how did you feel? Did you feel welcomed coming into, I know it's barely been 3 weeks in total, but like any experience on that you could shed light on?
I felt super welcomed.
Yeah.
I just hit the ground running, and it was crazy at first, but I'm getting kind of into the groove now. As just these 3 weeks, I've already gotten used to how things work and stuff. So.
Yeah. Have you written any stories? What have you done in these?
I've written one.
One? Okay.
Right now I'm working on getting pictures for that story.
Okay.
And it should be done tomorrow. So.
And how was your experience doing that? Did you like it?
It was hard to find one at first, just because I didn't know what I was looking for. But after that, I did an interview with one of the ladies at Counseling Services, and it went really well.
Yeah. And what was that story about?
Mental health on campus.
Mental health.
Mm-hmm.
And how did that go over? Like, what were you discovering? Just how a lot of students have struggled with this, or just kind of branching out, sharing to the students that we have something to help them?
More like branching out
Uh-huh.
and getting like numbers and everything.
Okay.
And making people more aware that it's like okay to go to therapy and
Mm-hmm.
lessening the stigma around it.
Yeah, that's good. Did you enjoy that piece?
Yeah, it's been really fun.
Okay, that's awesome. What in that, did anybody guide you or help you with that?
Yeah, I think you and Xhaxany and Bradley, and also Rachel, of course, were like the main people, because Bradley did the first story about caring for the crew, and then he kind of like directed me on what to do for the second one.
Mm-hmm.
So that was really helpful to have y'all.
That's okay. I'm glad that you're not scared by us, because we are getting a few more people that might. Your internship, right? You said okay. We might get 2 more paid staffers, and that's something that we're trying to figure out. Just being welcoming, but also, I guess, let them hit the ground running, but also help them not feel so isolated or alone, because that's definitely something that was hard in the beginning for me, especially writing, because I want to write like screenplays, not write an article. Those are 2 different forms of writing. So then when I learned how to write for journalism, it's like you can still use this later down the road in different ways. But did you give any advice?
I did not. I think the advice I would give to someone who's coming into the NewsCru would be just like, don't stop. Like, don't take a large amount of breaks, because I did that the first week.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't great, but don't just like keep going and ask for help. I think that was the main one.
Guys, we're back with our final crew member. This is Jackson. I'm going to have him introduce himself.
Hi, my name is Xhaxany Keenan. I'm a junior here at UMHB, and this is my first year technically getting paid for the bells, but I've been a volunteer for about 2 years now.
And how did you hear about the bells?
It was part of kind of our crew group, or like the welcome week thing. We kind of, with our crew group, we did a tour and stuff, and we had like a meet the professors, and then I learned about the bells and stuff. Once I kind of got my schedule figured out, I decided to hop on as a volunteer, and I've kind of been here since.
And how has those 2 years as volunteer been?
It's been enjoyable at sometimes. It's good to build your portfolio, and it's a great tool to expand on, just have something there really for freshmen and sophomores especially. Internships are around the corner, especially if you need them. The bells will get you published. They'll publish your photos, publish your artwork, hopefully, and publish your stories especially. So if you're a journalist major, even PR majors, they need to write. Great way to get your stories published and put them on your portfolio.
And so, like, when you first got into the bells, how was it? How did you feel? What were you expecting?
I didn't know what I was expecting. I did like the school newspaper in high school, but I only did it for a year, and I didn't do much. But like, it was kind of similar. It was kind of the same way. It's somehow smaller than my high school newspaper was, which I was surprised by.
Yeah.
And it was kind of, it was interesting to see like a bunch of different, we're a very different student work thing. We're very close. We have to be kind of close because we're just doing things that are very personal. Writing is a very personal, in my opinion, something very personal. So you kind of get to know each other relatively quickly.
So, for you being a journalism major, how has it helped you throughout your career? Has it made you more, I guess, excited about maybe your career in journalism?
Yeah, it has, and just because like I liked writing, and I still like writing, but another kind of addition on there would be photography side. I've started taking more photos and stuff, and I've really enjoyed it. So just kind of like without the bells, really, I wouldn't be able to put myself out like that. Slowly getting involved with things like Lightroom and not Photoshop yet, and InDesign and stuff like that really helps me grow my list of hireable traits, I would say.
So you think the Bells is a great opportunity just to build anything, basically.
If you like one thing about journalism but don't know about the rest, the Bells would be a great way to kind of just test it out. And if you don't like it, well, you probably should be looking for a different major, but separate topic.
That has happened in the newsroom twice already. It has been journalism and then English major with Rachel and the other Rachel.
I thought she was a dual.
No, she's only English major. Yeah. But you'll learn fairly quickly if this is something you want to do, which I think is very beneficial, because imagine going 4 years just learning stuff, and then when you finally get in the career, you're like, this is not enjoyable at all, and like kind of feels like a waste of time, to be honest. So that's one thing I really like about the Bells, that you really get thrown in there. Like, it's not...
There's very little. There's training, but it's training in the way where you either do it or you don't, and we'll teach you all along the way. Yeah. So,
but that's also for everyone who came in. Like, none of us knew what we were going into, and we kind of just did it. So it's not like not structured, but also you just have to kind of go out and do it. But we also are very supportive and helpful in those type of ways, especially with like mental health and communication, stuff like that. We definitely care about stuff like that. So what has been the hardest lesson you have learned from the NewsCru?
Kind of like communication is important. I've always known communication is important, but communicating with a bunch of college students that you see for 3 to 4 hours a day when you're dealing with a paper so large, it has its own difficulties, especially because we're all very different. So that's a whole nother thing. You aren't working with them like a 9 to 5 where I just go over there and talk to them, and 5 o'clock is done, you're out of there. You have classes, you have, for me, athletics and stuff. So like we have 13 hours to communicate with each other, 13 hours a week to communicate with each other, which oftentimes in such a fast industry it's not enough time. So you have to figure out ways to do it outside of your work.
And you say you're an athlete. Have you been an athlete your whole college career?
Yes, I've been an athlete for all 3 years.
So how has that been on top of school and on top of volunteering, now working for the NewsCru?
Well, it's been up and down. I took a step back last year just because I decided to take way too many credits, and then athletics. Couldn't do all 3 at the same time. But this time around, the fall's we're out of season, so I can realistically get 13 hours a week. It's not too difficult, especially with being on the sports team. Athletics are another 3 hours that I just throw on there.
The most fulfilling part of working at the NewsCru?
It's gonna sound kind of selfish, but winning awards, it's very rewarding. But winning awards for something that you work really hard on, like a story or trying out something new for the first time. It's very rewarding in the sense of you're getting told that you're doing a good job, and it's not just from your other coworkers who want us to keep you around for a little bit longer. Or just, we need a story. But it's from other people. And also, getting told good job from like an advisory standpoint, or I haven't had this yet, but someone outside of UMHB, or not outside of you, somebody outside of the Bells, I can imagine it's very rewarding.
I can imagine. That's another thing I think the Bells is very unique on, or I don't know about other organizations on campus, but like we're the only one that has the the TIPA thing and all of that, and your work is actually being seen. It's not just the university, if that makes sense, even though that's very important too, because you could use that for your resume, portfolio, stuff like that. But even that on top of it, just there's a lot of benefits to that.
It's probably one of the more unique work studies, just because you're not just sitting at a desk really, or you're not just working a job, something like civics, where you're doing a job. This is an internship, a job, and also like in a weird way preparing you for office life in a way. And I don't think there's many other work studies that can say we're going to build your portfolio, and guess what? You'll probably get a little prepared to deal with an office.
Yeah, it feels like an office in there a lot, but it's also sometimes when it's really hard, we know we can have that safe space to like walk away for a little bit and come back. Did you feel that whenever you had to step back last semester with your classes and
Yeah, like being away from the office, it's nice and like it kind of calms down.
Yeah.
It calms down as soon as you leave, and you kind of get to think about it, and cooler heads usually prevail at that point.
Was any advice for someone who is considering working or maybe even volunteering for the NewsCru?
I would say if you want to write, if you have interesting ideas, or if you want to see where you want to go in your career, the Bells is a great opportunity. Let's say you find art really interesting and you want to write about it, or if you want to be like, oh, I want to expand my writing portfolio.
Mm-hmm.
It's a great way to expand your portfolio. I really want to say that like we want writers as much as we love everybody else. Everybody likes to do photography.
Yeah.
It's photography. You get to go to cool events and you get to play with a $1,000 toy for 2 hours to an hour.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody likes photography, but writing and editing and building your portfolio is kind of where our advantages are.
Mm-hmm. So, what else? Is there anything else you'd like to add? Any advice you'd like to give? Any more?
If you're thinking about join as a volunteer. You'll figure out pretty
Yeah.
quickly if you like it or if you don't. Volunteers, there's very little skin on the line.
Yeah.
If you're on the fence, don't sign up for the work study, I would say.
Yeah, don't put that commitment in until you've had your toe in the water,
It took me
because
2 years to make that. Well, it took me a year. I couldn't sign up for it. But
Yeah.
it took me a whole year before I decided that, hey, I want to do work study,
Mhm.
you know? And I couldn't do it last year because FAFSA.
Yeah.
But, you know, being a volunteer, if you're on the fence, please come as a volunteer.
Yeah.
Don't say that you want to do a work study, because at least give it 2 weeks.
Yes, it is a lot, and we're not gonna lie and say it isn't, because it's very bombarding, especially for a freshman coming in. It's a lot. So I think that's a wise, thing to say is just come in, see the feel, and if you enjoy it, then maybe consider doing the work study.